Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Class of '09. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I was actually kind of interested by the fact that this was a shorter episode, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I guess it's like, right, you kind of did the heavy lifting in most of the other episodes, telling what you need to tell. And it's mainly I figured it would be mainly a present. I thought most of the episode would be set in the future, but I'd say it's like mainly set in the present, quite a bit in the future, but then like a tiny bit in the past. I was actually surprised that like there was so little of the past. I mean, I guess it makes sense. The only thing you want to focus on at this point in time, where they are by the end of the story in conjunction with their graduation. And it's just like how small of a part of the episode I thought that was, especially considering that only came up at the end. But I think it's meant to be not even just parallels of where their stories kind of began versus where they are currently in the future, but more so what's next for them as, you know, things play out the way they do, which we'll get to later. But I think that was meant to be the more direct correlation of where they, at a point where it's like, right, who knows what the future holds for you? And here we are seeing, hey, this is what the future holds for you. But even beyond that, we don't know, because everyone kind of went down their different directions, because we didn't completely catch up with everyone by the end. And I think it's also an interesting parallel, because it's like, right, we catch up with Poet and Teo. I'm trying to think. I don't think we really focus on Lennox or at all, but either way, focusing on the present, this is after Teo got attacked, and he's not sure who did it, but he ends up talking to the director of the FBI, because he ended up talking to Poet, and we actually found out the explanation of why Teo wanted to become an FBI agent, why he's here. It ended up being the fundamental reason why the fundamental part of his journey, and why he wanted to kind of tear down the system of what was, and wanted to create something more so in its place, where, once again, he's always had the best of intentions. And I thought like everything that happened with the attack on the FBI in 2023 was a foundational thing, but it's like, no, it goes way back, because it turns out his father was killed in the line of duty, and two white officers stopped the guy who had a gun in his seat, saying like, right, this is a dangerous neighborhood. I don't want to be stopped by, got to protect myself against some N-words trying to steal from me. That guy later on, there was a domestic situation involved. Teo's dad showed up, and Teo's dad was shot and killed by this guy. Those officers denied, we never saw a gun or whatever. So it's like, for Teo, that's why he's here, because like how flawed the system is, and how like those biases and all that, because like, right, those cops didn't check to see if that firearm was registered. They didn't run him. They were just like, yeah, they took him at his word and just let him go. And it's like, I think Teo's seen too much of that, especially with just how many people are just able to kind of slide through the system. So he wanted to change that. And so him and Poet are working together to find the people responsible for coming after him and Viv. And they can't get access to like the files of two of the people. Well, one person in particular was connected to the guy that tried to kill him. They had a military past connection. But it turns out this person was being blocked by the system, because he went to go see the director of the FBI, and it's like, home dude's like, right, when we presented your system to like every branch of the government, like different organizations, the military, this and that, not everyone was super receptive, and so they want to kind of nip this in the bud. And it's like, well, you know who sent that, like, hired hitman after me? It's like, no, I don't know, and I don't want to know. And you shouldn't either, because it's like, right, you're going to make enemies, and it's, you know, it's best not to kind of like, you know, turn over those rocks, because who knows what you're going to find. But it's like, hey, you want to do this, Teo? I'll retire a year early, and you get to have my job, because you're going to be the person they're going to line up next to take my position anyway. But for the system to be in place, there are conditions. And so it is that interesting thing of when you're taking this journey and to get what you want, to kind of fix things from the inside. That's also the thing about like, right, someone who wants to fix something from the inside, it's like, can you really do that? It's like, I guess in some arguments you could say like Teo is burning everything to the ground with the AI system, but it's like, but there's still so much red tape that he's still kind of being bound by, because, hey, there are still certain people you can't go after. Yeah, you're going after powerful people, but it's like some people are too needed in their positions because yeah, they've done some messed up stuff, but they're too integral to letting like the whole like hey, so much would fall apart in like our like in this world because those powerful people are so integral in their positions that if you go after them, it kind of will make our systems kind of crumble. So it is a thing of yes, you have unfettered access to the system to go after everyone except these certain people. And it's like, right, the system is meant to look at everyone is guilty. And that was kind of Amos's thing of like, no. If you start picking and choosing like that, it skews the data, like it, cause it's like, hey, these people are exempt from this, even though you're supposed to make everyone, cause it's supposed to remove any biases. And maybe that, those missing pieces to it is why the system ended up turning into what it did. It is a thing of, I mean, no system is ever going to be perfect, but it's like, yeah, because like man is so flawed that it's like, right, we can't let you go unfeathered. We have to put some restrictions on you by removing certain people from the list. And Teo, regardless of it all, still took the position, which Viv was kind of not excited about because it's like, right, you should be seeking justice, but rather you're taking this job that they're giving you just to shut you up. But once again, it's the perspective of, I have to take this job because once I'm at the top, I'll be in the most powerful position to change the world for the better. But it's like, yeah, but how much of yourself will you compromise along the way? But for Teo, he's so driven about wanting to change things because the trauma of what happened to his dad motivated every decision he made. That's also why he's always been someone who is like rebelled against any like, like I think like, commands and stuff, like kind of like, I am going to still be me. I'm not going to like conform 100% to the system. I'm going to make the system conform and fit to people like me, people who the system has kind of ignored or has kind of been biased against. And once again, it's just the best of intentions, but it becomes misguided and corrupted along the way, and that's what happened to the system. And Amos was locked out of it for the next couple, basically 9 years, because he wouldn't like go along with what Teo did. And it's like, oh, you brought these cops here because you don't want to take the chance I might try and lock you out of system and try to prevent you from changing it. It's like, we had a vision of what this was going to be and you are altering that. And it's like, we have no idea what the long-term ramifications of that will be. And we see the fallout of it. And I think Teo has to live with those choices. That's why he's even more like, right, it is on me because I'm the one that pushed for the system. Because once again, it's trauma stacked on top of trauma. Like, at the heart of all of this goes back to everything with his dad, but everything he's going through with the attack on the FBI and just seeing the way the system has operated for so long. All of that, the systemic issues that are there has motivated his decisions to this point. So, and obviously we see that, it cost him his marriage. This whole situation, obviously we get the scene between Poet and Orr where the lines were kind of drawn in that regard because Orr's talking about like, right, her database was supposed to be that perfect balance of not going too far when it comes to the AI of it all, but also still relying on agents to be good at what they do. Like, it's meant to be this perfect balance, and so it doesn't skew too heavily on the AI side of things, which this will. So she's warning about it, but even Poet's taking it as like are you asking me, you want me to talk to Teo, but it's like, it feels like you're asking me to choose. She's like, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to choose me. And it's like, it feels like it. I think for Orr, it's just back to that conversation she had in a previous episode. It's like, I told you how I felt about you, but you rationalizing it, feeling like, okay, I can't be too biased in a situation. So once again, you swung the pendulum against me. Like, you swung so far the other way, choosing to go against me. But it's like, but Poet also has a motivation of, hey, like, I'm able to close cases on so many people that are dead, so many women that were murdered. I was able to put those bad guys away. But it's like, Aura is saying, I am the person who understands this technology. This isn't your area of expertise. It is mine. And you won't listen to me when you should. So, and because maybe if Orr had never told Poet how she felt, which, to be fair, Poet, I think, eventually picked up on it. But she kind of already knew. But she never, like, having Orr say it out loud is a different thing because you have plausible deniability. But it's like, if Orr had never told her how she really felt, like, who knows how that conversation would have played out. But especially who and what Poet was going through at that time, like posted, the attack on the FBI and also like diving into these cases and being able to kind of make headway. Once again, what Orr had said previously Helping you out with a case is one thing, but I can't help you out if it's a cause. A cause is something you can't do anything about. And then we got to see what ended up happening, how the system affected the next 9 years of its implementation, it being implemented, Jesus. And that ends up, we see like the graph of like arrests and stuff over the years, and eventually got to the point of it took a little while, but it eventually got to the Minority Report situation that it is in currently, where, hey, people are likely to commit this crime even though they haven't done anything. So, and we see how that ends up backlashing on Teo. It's like, hey, I'm done with the FBI and everything, except the system isn't done with him, because it comes after Viv, because she is someone that is connected to certain groups. She's looked up and gotten books about anti-AI stuff, and the people she's connected to, associates and stuff, and what she's teaching. Like, it feels the system is kind of saying, like, right, she's a radicalized person, that she's a person that could eventually radicalize and kind of be the undoing of the system. Like, you could do that. Once again, doing something that maybe I will be like, maybe I'll do, maybe I won't. Just having this thought. And so she gets arrested, and the AI, I think that's the first time we've ever seen it do that thing of like, right, it has your AI profile. It kind of like puts all this data about you into it, and like after it scans you. And obviously she's in court, and sadly, Teo and them immediately knew, and even she knew, that the decision was already made. It's like, you two judges are here just for the performance of it all, but at the end of the day, it is going to come down to an algorithm deciding whether or not I'm guilty of my thoughts and stuff like that. We've gone so far from what this was originally supposed to be, and we're so used to the system being what it is, we don't question it because it does so much good, because so much crime has been heavily reduced because of what it's done. It's like, yeah, because you can't even have a thought without it coming after you. It uses this algorithm to kind of decide. Once again, its data is also skewed because, going back to it, people are missing from it. So their decision is, the squad, the class of '09, their decision is to try and use Amos's data that he left them to basically affect the system. Basically, everyone's included or no one is. So it's going to lock them out so they can't change it. And if they won't change it, they'll have to admit, like, okay, we did wrong with this, and have to shut the system down. So I was kind of scared. I'm like, this could be a situation where anyone dies, but luckily they all made it out of this, knowing darn well like they would get arrested in the end. But that's also to play the point into it. So they use the EMP to shut it down and uses Amos's data to restart it. And now the system's supposed to be fair and square again. It's meant to be locked out so that no one like Ward could, who was kind of like Teo's guy who kind of took over, so that people like him could never fully take advantage of the system, a system that was already kind of hampered by the fact that certain people were removed. So that ends up being the catalyst that ends up changing everything, because going forward, all cases that were like people, like, because of the like predictive nature of the algorithm and the AI system, all cases that were like arrests were made by that are undone. So the entire like system has to like upheaval itself for like what has been like, I mean, it's not like everything, but it's like, I mean, not everything in like the FBI's history, but specifically like anyone that fell under the category of the system's activation, like, which will undo a lot, because that is 9 years, and there's a lot that can happen in 9 years. So, but Viv's case was dropped, so this is kind of like this brand new world of post all of this, because of the way it was, of like, right, we can't remove people from the system and keep them out of the system. So if everyone's supposed to be on the same playing field, if no one can be on the same playing field, if they want to make exceptions to the system, it's like, right, it's got to be turned off, and it is turned off. So, and Teo had talked about what he wanted that system to be. It's like, right, people kind of looked at me a certain way because of this, but at the end of the day, I wanted a system that would make it so that everyone was on the same side of the law, in regards of everyone was treated fairly. Like, it was supposed to remove all bias and stuff like that. So, like I said, we only catch up with like Teo in that capacity. We know him and Viv were going to give it another shot, so you can only assume that works out in that capacity. Poet is back. She's at the academy teaching the class of 2034. she had talked about Drew. She's like, yeah, I had this one instructor. Because we never found out whatever happened to Gabriel. I don't know if he like stepped away from the FBI or what. It also implies, it makes it seem like Drew died in 2023 when the FBI were attacked. It seemed like she might have died the way Poet talked about, but maybe I'm 100% mistaken in that. It is so interesting to kind of have the ending being what it is, and I'm so curious how people feel about it. Do they feel like it's a lackluster ending, or are they perfectly fine with it? It just because it is on the shorter side, you expected like a lot of stuff happened a lot faster than I thought it would, but you had like a lot of like only had one last episode to wrap everything up. I don't know. It makes you wonder, was there's a lot of stuff that they ended up cutting from not even just this final episode, but the last show that maybe would have lengthened that even more. I don't know. Maybe they felt in the end wasn't whatever they might have cut that might have been there, or maybe this is exactly what the show was meant to be, and maybe there was no alterations of, let's cut this for time. It's not necessary, or I don't know. Because it makes me wonder where some of the. I'm actually curious. I'm sure they mix matched it just based on the locations they had and stuff like that. But I'd be so interested in the behind the scenes stuff of how much past stuff did they film at one single time, how much present stuff did. Because you would feel like it'd be easy to kind of do that past stuff here, present stuff here, and future stuff here. But it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like filmmaking, it's like, and movies and TV show, it's like filmed all over the place. You go on where the locations you have available and the people you have available at a time. So I don't know. I'm sure it was like mix match. I'm sure some days they did, hey, here's some past stuff getting makeup, and we're going to do some future stuff, and then other stuff you don't need as much makeup, so we're just going to do presents. Just interesting stuff like that. Because it is a one and done show, there is not going to be a second season, but it is that thing of getting a peek into what that world is like in the aftermath of all that was kind of done, and what this world kind of means going forward. It's like, yeah, we're kind of back to the status quo. Crime is back up because you're not nipping it in the bud. So yeah, there was good that came with it, but there was also too heavy of a price that came with it. And they paid that price for a very long time, but they couldn't continue to pay that price because if they let it continue, who knows what else would have been later down the line of like how far this would have gone. So very, very interesting show. Like I said, maybe I talked about this before, maybe I didn't. I was not expecting the show to go the science fictional angle it did with the whole system of it all. Like I knew this was cause I didn't know, like I think I talked about this in the beginning. I wasn't aware because it had been a while since I saw the trailer when the show first dropped. I think I saw the full trailer, but I didn't realize, hey, we were bouncing back and forth between past, present, and future. I didn't know that was going to be the structure of the show, but I thought like, hey, this is the class of '09, and my understanding is like, hey, one of them was, like, I read the synopsis somewhere, and I was under the impression, hey, one of them died, and I thought that's what brought them back together, and like maybe finding out that like, I was thinking like, I mean, Teo was kind of semi the antagonist in the show at certain points, but like I thought like they were kind of setting it up like, who can you trust in this regard? It's like the show ended up not being at all what I thought it was. Once again, I saw the trailer like once a while back, so maybe I'm misremembering the trailer at all. And like I said, I read a synopsis like even before a while back. I don't know if I'm confusing that with the synopsis of another show or not, but I don't know. The show just was not what I was expecting in a good way. It made it that much more interesting. I'm like, well, how this going to play out and where would this ultimately end up going? So especially with the bouncing between the 3 different time frames. So. But yeah, like to everyone involved in the show, typically I do this when it comes to the ends. I wish everyone involved with the show, cast, crew, in front of the camera, behind the camera, everyone involved, I wish them the best in their future endeavors and whatever they end up being a part of or end up creating. So thanks for making this a very interesting miniseries. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.